Mads Gilbert is a Norwegian doctor who spent time working at Gaza's al-Shifa hospital, and he joins us live now. Mads, thank you very much for, Dr. Gilbert, I should say, thank you very much for your time speaking to us here on TRT World. Now, like I say, you have worked at Gaza's al-Shifa hospital. You've had a lot of experience in international humanitarian work throughout your career. Is this the worst situation that you've been confronted with in your career to date?
Absolutely, without any hesitation or doubt. I've been working with international solidarity medicine for the last 43 years. My first experience with Israeli war machine was in Beirut in 1982, where they also besieged, blocked and bombed the city with civilians, taking the biggest casualties through the summer of 1982. It was horrible. I lost many of my illusions during Beirut. And since then, for these 43 years, it is no doubt that it has become more and more brutal. And I've been in Gaza working with the brave Palestinian healthcare workers since the first Intifada. And as you said many times in Shifa, also in Al-Aqsa Hospital, in Al-Quds Hospital, in Mustashfa El-Ahli Arab, I know the Palestinian healthcare well, and I know the Palestinian healthcare workers. And I'm a little bit embarrassed to speak tonight because I think they should have the floor to explain. But that said, there is no doubt that what we have seen during these 2 last years has surpassed any fantasy of how sadistic, how systematic, and how devilish an occupation army and a terror state can subjugate and other people to the most heinous suffering and pain for their families, for their children, for the civilian men, women. Everyone has been and are suffering. And all of these effects that you have been describing through your brave journalists in Gaza are the results of a detailed planning by the Israeli state bodies, the defense minister, the interior minister, the security people, and not to forget the Israeli occupation army. Everything is man-made, from the starvation to the use of quadcopters, to the denial of supplies to the hospitals, to the bombing of hospitals, to the killing of more than 1,700 doctors, nurses, paramedics, and medical students, and to the blockade of all types of humanitarian support to the people. I don't think that we have seen for the last 2 centuries anything like the meanness and the systematic sadism in the Israeli way of treating the Palestinian people, and not only in Gaza, don't forget the West Bank. This is not only a genocide, this is an ethnic cleansing, and this is an unprecedented campaign supported by the United States, which is the main ally of most European countries, which has been going on live camera every night, every day for more than 2 years, and it has to stop.
Dr. Gilbert, you mention your colleagues who are still there in Gaza. Is there a sense of helplessness now for humanitarian workers, for doctors, for surgeons?
I talk to my colleagues in Gaza almost every day, the Palestinian colleagues. And I'm sick and tired of the voices from Gaza only being, or mostly being, the white humanitarian caravan, the relief industry going in. They do a good job, but the burden and the brink of the burden and the main responsibilities in Gaza are carried by the Palestinian healthcare workers, and they don't give up. This portraying of them as helpless and sort of surrendering is not what I hear. It's not what I see when I talk to them. They are steadfast, they are strong, they don't leave their people, and they are willing to die. And let me take this opportunity to pay tribute to 2, or rather 3, of the more than 1,700 killed medics and nurses and paramedics in Gaza. My very dear medical student, Dr. Maysara Al-Rayes, who finished as a medical doctor, was going to be a pediatrician. He was killed on the 5th of October 2023 with his whole family, executed in a merciless bombardment of his home. He was a brilliant doctor and he chose to go back to Gaza to serve his people. He exists no more. And I also want to pay tribute to Dr. Hani al-Haytham, who was the head of Shifa Emergency, and his wife, Dr. Samara Gafani, and their 5 children, Tia, Samir, Wafa, and Saur. They were killed on the 17th of December 2023. And these 2 families are just 2 examples of how systematic the Israeli occupation army have been attacking the healthcare workers in Gaza. Despite this, to answer your question, despite this, I don't see that they give up. Yes, they are exhausted. Yes, they are desperate to get in, not first and foremost food for themselves, but food for their patients. And they're desperate to get in the drugs and the equipment they need to treat the thousands and thousands of injured who are now dying by the thousands from complications that could have been prevented if the medical system had not been so profoundly destroyed by the Israeli occupation army. But my answer to your question is no, they don't give up. No, they are steadfast. And bear in mind, despite the Israeli army being one of the mightiest and most well-equipped and most strongly supported armies in the world by the US, all the technology, all the weapons, all the bombardment, they have not been able to defeat the Palestinian resistance. And part of the resistance in Palestine is the medical system. Because this is a popular struggle, it's a legal struggle against occupation, and the Palestinian movement is a national liberation movement which should be supported by every righteous thinking person in the world, because they're fighting exactly the same struggle as we in Norway fought when we were fighting the Nazis who occupied us for 5 years, and as the Ukrainian people are fighting to gain this now against occupation. So this is a legal struggle, and the medical system is an important part of the popular resistance, and they have stood the test. And I want to pay tribute to my boss, Dr. Youssef Aborish, who is the Minister of Health in Gaza, who has been on his post as a leader for these 2 years and done a fantastic job not to give up and to try to improvise and try to find solutions. And despite the fact that 2/3 of the hospitals are out of function, the remaining 1/3 are still doing medical work and will not give up until there is free Palestine.
Dr. Gilbert, thank you so much for talking to us this evening and for your passionate words.